So I'm not sure. I'm going to confirm, but I think it's this one coming up, not this one. He gets, what he said. How do you say it? Elias Disney. I think it's this one right here. I mean, they look old, really old school. All these houses. But this is at Bay Hill. All right, today is Monday. What's today? January 13th, I believe, 2026. I just posted that Elias Disney house. So my kid, and bear with me, I'm going to talk a lot about myself and why I have the channel. So I know a lot of people just watch for certain reasons, and so for those of you that are actually interested, I'll get into my background, who I am, talk about that for a little bit. So if you're interested in that, stay put. If you're just interested in the videos that I make and things like that, or from time to time you're just curious, I understand. And this light is bright. I'm sitting in my car. So my kid plays hockey, so we're out here in Daytona on Monday and Wednesdays throughout the week. So I decided while I'm sitting here, his practice is about 30 minutes, so I have 30 minutes. So that first video was, he has a hockey teammate that his dad had back surgery, so we're picking him up over in Dr. Phillips. So I saw it's at Bay Hill Invitational, the golf course, and that's where the house is located. So if you guys, I think it's Tibbet Drive, you guys can look it up. But it was Elias Disney's house, I think years after they created the theme parks and everything. So anyways, yeah, I don't want to say a lot, but I'm gonna get into it. And like I said, if you guys are interested in my backstory, then I'll talk about it a little bit and let you know who I am. The reason I started making videos, it was about a year and a half ago, I think, my first video. So if you want to follow along, I've never asked anybody to subscribe, so if you want to subscribe, I'm going to deep dive into what I have coming up in the future, and I don't know if it'll help me mentally or just personally want to do more videos. I'm just going to do them in general, and I'm actually going to talk about Adam the Woo a little bit and then some other things. But yeah, if you are interested and you are on my channel and you're watching this, subscribe if you want to see more videos. So I started making videos because when I was in the Army, I didn't have an issue, I guess, with just living life and being myself. So then when I got out of the Army is when kind of things started to get more complicated, and I ended up moving from, I was in Washington, I was in the Army, I was in 2nd Infantry Division, I was an interrogator, and I got out in 2011 and ended up moving down to Florida. So for multiple reasons, and one of them was Disney World, the other was school. I wanted to go to school, and I don't know, I kind of separated myself from life. I wasn't used to, after 5 years in the Army, I was stationed in Korea, and then I went to Iraq, and I had some issues there. And so for me, I just wanted to go to school, and I wanted to kind of like get away from everything. I lived in Indiana during my high school years, and so I had a lot of friends. My brother and everybody were up there. I had friends all over being in the Army, but I was just focused on getting away from everything and trying to get my life together and have a future for myself. I have my kid, Sebastian, who lives with me, and so that was one important situation that I was trying to, be a good father and do what I needed to do. So I knew it was going to be a struggle, man. So the stories, if you guys are still watching, the stories that I have, and I started a podcast. I've done a couple of those. It's hilarious. If you know me personally, you guys know how funny I can be and how much I love to laugh. So I'm trying to bring that personality out into videos, but a lot of the beginning videos, and I encourage you guys to go back to watch, but for me, the two reasons, I guess, is why I make videos. One, like Adam the Woo would say, for posterity, just to document, because I do a lot of things, but I don't have a lot of memories documented. So that's my main reason. Even if nobody even watches, that's my main reason for making videos. The second reason is, when I go places, I started getting on this thing of getting on YouTube, and I want to see what I'm getting into. I don't know if this is like a army thing, or if it's something that maybe before that. I just like to know what's ahead, and I get a little insight. So for me, I'm like, if I'm going to this location, why not document it? The Gettysburg one is a good one if you guys want to go back. I went twice. That's a good idea of what I'm talking about, because I just wanted to see what it was like. And so for me to go to Gettysburg and be able to film it, I'm not really good right now at speaking during videos. My New York video, I was more of just kind of in awe of what I'm looking at and just taking it in. So I didn't talk a lot. And now I understand, for me personally, like I said, these videos are just for me. But I like the fact that other people are interested and I can share them with other people. So I'm going to start to try to talk more and give more insight of what I see and what's going on, because I feel like it's important more when I go back and watch it, not only to myself but other people. So my background, I was born in Ventura, California. I was born in Ventura County. My brother and my cousin and myself were all born in the same hospital by the same doctor in the same room, which was kind of cool. We're all about a year apart. I'm the youngest, then my brother's 14 months older, and so on, and my cousin's the oldest. So I grew up in Southern California, and a staple for me was going to Disneyland. I loved going to Disneyland. Core memories at Disneyland, I was there in the 80s and the 90s, so before California Disney, before the parking garages, before downtown Disney, just raw Disneyland and what I remember of Disneyland. I recently did a video, another one, if you want to go back this summer for the 70th. I went when I got out of the Army. My kid was 3. I went, and that was an experience, but the same thing, I didn't document it, so I only have a couple pictures from that. So I'm glad this summer I documented it, because even though it wasn't as informative, it was kind of cool to go back and watch and just see what I was able to do, able to look at, walk around. It's definitely changed a lot. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was, even though I knew that they had added things like Galaxy's Edge and things like that. So I was born out there. I could talk for days. I can get into a lot of things in my life, but I'm just kind of like giving the channel more of an insight of who I am and then what I have coming up. Because what I have coming up, I don't know if a lot of people are even still watching, but what I have coming up is I'm going to start vlogging. My kid's playing in a tournament in Washington, D.C. I've been there before. I drove through it. It's kind of a funny video and a short little at the end of my Gettysburg video. But I'm going to vlog every day. So if you're still watching, expect me to drop videos every day this week. The reason I don't do vlogging every day is because of what I do now for a living and the fact that I'm so busy. Before I get back into, the California growing up and getting to this point, I'll tell you real quick, I teach, and on top of that, after I teach, a couple days a week, I go to work at a gym. My background is in strength and conditioning, but unfortunately I've kind of steered away from that path. My master's is in strength and conditioning. I would love to continue to work with athletes, but right now, based on my kid playing hockey, I have decided that I needed to get a job that was more during the day, Monday through Friday, and that's where teaching came into. Teaching's hilarious. I have a lot of stories and things like that. Once I'm done with teaching, I will definitely from time to time talk about my experience with teaching. I think I'm 4 years in right now, and I don't feel like a teacher. I don't really consider myself a teacher. I consider myself somebody who has a career, and I do a job, and I love the kids, and I love what I do for them. It's just really, really challenging in a sense that you can't just go be yourself at school. You have to watch what you say, things like that. So it's hilarious. I remember I got a phone call from my friend Bob one time, and I was in class. Well, I was teaching on PE, so I was outside, and a kid came up and said something, and I was just kind of like myself and what I said to him, and because I don't know, they say so many things and they ask so many questions, and those of us that have kids, we kind of relate and we understand how kids can be with the repetitive questions. So it was just hilarious because I don't sugarcoat anything, and my students, they know who I am. So it's funny when I talk to them, and they just like, I don't know, it's funny. Other students, when they hear me talk to, they know what they're getting. If it's a new student, I don't, obviously, I'm not so blunt with them. I like to break it down and kind of, build some rapport first before you just start, trying to be yourself and laugh. But anyway, so yeah, I was in California, and then my mom, she moved a lot when I was younger. My mom and dad, and then they split up. And one of the things about me is I thought I was more gifted as an athlete growing up. I played baseball when I was like 5 years old, and I love sports. My dad always did everything with us with sports: basketball, baseball, football. Bought us a four-wheeler, which was hilarious because we lived in a trailer in Pensacola, and I remember me getting in that four-wheeler and just ramping a tree and almost hitting my uncle, I think, and going through a fence because I didn't know how to stop, or I didn't stop, I don't know. But just those memories back in the day, and just being able to run around as kids and do whatever we want, kind of like the Sandlot, because I know nowadays it's different. It's not even close to being like that. So I always had this talent with sports. I could play any sports and be really good at it. Later on in life, it kind of comes into play. But I always had these goals or these dreams. Like, I wanted to be big in life. I wanted to be somebody, and I wanted to be impactful. And so I didn't really understand the impactful part, but I always knew that I helped people, and I did a lot for others, not just myself. It was just something naturally that I did. But the whole thing of just like wanting to be somebody, I didn't just want to be somebody who was just like, I don't know, not as impactful. That was something that never registered in my mind. I always had this urge to just do something great. And I always would tell people, especially about being in the Army, if I met somebody and it was their kid or whatever, and then I went away and maybe I passed away, and that's another thing, we'll talk about death in a second, because I know with Adam and everything that's happened, but I just wanted, if I passed away and I died in war or something like that, I wanted to be remembered as somebody who was out there trying to make a difference with whatever it was in life. And it's kind of ironic because I think everything that I've done in my life has been impactful in many ways, so we'll dive into that. So after I moved around a lot, and then I got older and I got into high school, I didn't have my dad at that point. They had split up and everything, and my dad lived in Florida, I lived in Indiana. And so then I don't know if I was just really depressed and I just didn't care. I just didn't have proper guidance, and I felt like I had talents where I could have done things in college with sports, and then it would help me academically because I was really smart too. I went to a magnet school, and I had lived in Texas when I was in middle school. So I had these gifts, but I feel like I wasn't able to utilize them correctly because I didn't have a lot of guidance. And my mom was my rock. She was always there. It's just I understand where she's coming from now because I'm trying to raise my kid, and we just don't know everything. And sometimes we think we're doing the best. And while we're down this path of doing good as a parent, we miss out on all these opportunities of things we could have put our kids into, or, open doors for them, like hockey. I wish I would have played hockey. My kid plays hockey. You guys can go back and watch some of his videos. He's not the best at it, but man, he gets out there and he plays like it's his last game every game. He just hustles. He does everything unselfishly, and I love watching him play. And I don't know how long hockey's going to last, but so it's something that I would have never done. It's super expensive. That's one of the reasons I work at the gym. His mom left when he was around 6 years old. She's come back into his life now. She lives in California, so I really appreciate what she's doing for him now. It's just when she left at 6 years old, it was just me and him, so I kind of had to just grind. And I'll get into that in a second of how much I've hustled. Like, I've worked months on end without a day off within the last few years. So after high school, or in high school, I ended up dropping out when I was 17 just because, like, emotionally, there was things that I want, but I knew I couldn't reach it, and then my grades had suffered and things like that. So I ended up going to Texas and staying with my aunt, and my aunt ended up passing away not too long ago of cancer, a couple of years ago. So that kind of ties in with the whole death thing. So then I go back to Indiana. I leave my aunt's. I'm 17 years old. I go back to Indiana. I live with my mom, and now I have my GED, but the rest of my senior class, they haven't even graduated yet. I think it's like March. But I want to play basketball in college. But the problem with that is I don't have ACTs, SATs. I don't have anything. I don't even, recruiting and stuff. And even when I was going to like showcases in Fort Wayne, I thought I had talent. Coaches recognized my talent. I'm 6'1", but it was just like I just didn't have all these things that I needed that I had no idea I needed. I thought I could just play and just go to college. And so I ended up going to Ancilla in Indiana, and they needed golf players, and they were offering scholarships. So I ended up going and trying out and walking on. So this is where I was telling you about having just natural talent. I just started golfing in high school. I thought it was cool. Tiger Woods was huge. Love Tiger Woods. Actually, to tie back to the Bay Hill thing, years ago, I went to my first and only PGA event, and it was when Tiger Woods won at Bay Hill. I was there. It was amazing to see. So I love Tiger, so I ended up walking onto the golf team in college. And then after a while, after that first year of college, golfing in college, I decided, you know what, I'm going to join the Army. I wanted to be on my own and independent. It wasn't really working out at home. It was hard. I didn't really know what I was doing. As far as like if I had to work, getting support and things like that, that was all on me because I just wanted to be somebody in life. I just didn't want to work in the town that I lived in or the state. I wanted to go see the world, do things. So I just, on my own, I just left. I went and joined the Army, didn't tell my mom. And then that was that. And then I went to the Army. I was a 35 mic or 97 echo, originally 35 mic, which is a human intelligence collector, which is an interrogator. And so then after that, I went to the Army, did 5 years, and now it is 2011. I was born in 1984. So the thing with Adam, which is kind of cool, is he was born August 10th, 1974. I was born July 24th, 1984. So we're about 10 years apart. But when I moved, I got out of the Army, I could go anywhere in the United States. So my three options that I was thinking was Southern California. I was going to go to University of California, or I was going to go to Vegas because I love Vegas for many reasons. One of the things is when I was growing up in California, I went to Hollywood Park and Santa Anita, and my dad used to take me to horse racing all the time. So I love horse racing. Growing up, when I was in the Army, I lived next to Emerald Downs on purpose up in Fort Lewis, Washington, when I was in 2nd Infantry Division. So Vegas was one. I was going to go to UNLV, or the other option was, since I love Disney so much, why not move to Florida? Before I went to Iraq, I went to Disney World, but why not move to Florida, go to Disney World, and go to UCF, University of Central Florida? So I don't know, when I put my mind to something, I used to think so far in advance, but now, like, after the Army, while I was in the Army, everything's day to day. I know what I do today is going to affect tomorrow and down the road, but I don't even think about it. I just know today I have to do this. So that's pretty much what it was. Is like, okay, I have my GED. I dropped out of school, and then I went to college and got some credits, but I really don't have a good sense of direction with life. I succeeded 5 years in the Army. So I moved down here to Florida, and that's what I did. And it was weird because I was married at the time, and I literally, for years, I didn't even work a job, but I knew if I got the GI Bill and my disability and all those things that I could afford to live. But all I had to do was stay in school. And I don't want to say I hate school, because there's some good things out of it, but I'm not a fan of being in school. And it was weird because I went from having a GED to not liking school to now I have a master's. So it was weird to I graduated Valencia, close to St. Cloud in Kissimmee, and then I graduated from UCF in 2015. But through that time, my wife had left me, and so that's where I took out student loans, and I had to survive. And I survived. I survived off student loans. I survived off the income that I had. And then at the same time, though, I was able to afford that monthly Disney pass. We're blessed in Florida that we get to go to Disney and we get to pay monthly instead of paying $1,500. Back then it wasn't that much, but to just come up with $1,500 for some people is a lot of money. But in Florida, we have the Florida resident, so we can just pay monthly. So for me, that was my budget. People ask me, like, why do you always go to Disney? Are you rich? This and that. A lot of people don't understand. But if I put in my budget $65 a month, that's all we have. That's what my entertainment is. And then you go to Disney whenever you want because you have free parking. And you could go for an hour. You can go for 5. People understand what I'm talking about. So that's what I did. So then 2015, I graduated. Couldn't get a job at all. It was so hard to get a job. So then I finally got a job at a juvenile detention center because of my background. I had an exercise science bachelor's degree and I was in the Army. I went through a lot of interviews and things like that, and I ended up getting the job. So it was cool. I got that job, but then I had to be a lifeguard certified employee because I was taking these kids that were locked up to locations like the beach and things like that, and they wanted me to be lifeguard certified. So when I went to take the test my first week, I failed at RDV in Orlando. So then I thought, okay, it's cool, I'll just retake it. Lost some weight, started working out, hadn't worked out since I got out of the Army. I was really depressed and just kind of in a funk. I had surgery, I had screws in my leg, things like that from getting hurt in Iraq. And with my disability, I was in an explosion in Iraq, my first mission, and I had a traumatic brain injury, so I get a lot of migraines and things. So going through that was a tough time, going through like therapy and things like that. So I started working out, and then I remember I bought a Cadillac, I bought a house, first house I bought, and I went into my boss's office and I'm like, when can I retake this test? And she tells me, we're letting you go. So up until then, like, life wasn't as hard. It was still tough, but it wasn't. So getting that notice was tough. But the next day I went to Universal and I got hired as security, which was probably one of the coolest jobs I've ever done because I was a security officer at Universal, which was fun. I walked the parks, and I don't know what was more fun than that. I grew up in California going to Disney World or Disneyland and Universal Hollywood. So for me, it was like, but they didn't pay that much back in the day. This was before they did the $15 minimum wage, then raised it. So it was still a struggle. So I did that for Halloween Horror Nights 25, which I'm a huge Halloween Horror Nights fan. If you go back to my videos, you can see it. But Kevin Heimbach, he's cool. I've met him a few times. He does a good content. He's one of the best on it. So if you guys are interested in Halloween Horror Nights, follow him. I'll try to leave all the people that I've talked about. I'll try to leave their tags in the description. But so then I worked there, but then I needed a different job. So I decided, okay, I'm going to get into teaching. It's not what I want to do, but I need a job, that pays better and stuff. And I have a degree. So I ended up getting a job in Lakeview Elementary, which is actually like 2 minutes from where Adam's buried right now. So I was in St. Cloud, become a paraprofessional, which is like an assistant. I did PE for a couple months, but I just wasn't getting paid. So I got on usajobs.gov. I ended up finding a job at a federal prison, and I became a federal law enforcement officer. I did that for 2 years, and the problem with that is I have empathy for these people that maybe were selling drugs but aren't bad people, and then they have like 80-year sentences. It's horrible. So for 2 years, I worked so much on helping these people that needed help that were good people. But once you get locked up, you become a different person because you have to survive. And man, I've seen so many we would have stabbings weekly. The day that I resigned, I had 2 stabbings, and so my friend ended up getting jumped in there. It was just crazy environment that I was in after I was in the Army and, going to Iraq and everything. So it was like, I didn't want to like go in there and feel like I was going to get killed every day. Even though I will tell you, a prison's pretty safe for people that work there. My first day was weird. Obviously, you just don't know what to expect. I met Whitey Bulger from Black Mass. He was in Pen 2 when I was in there, and that was the first, real big name that I met while I was in prison. But you don't take pictures with these people or anything like that. You're professional. I ended up meeting Baby Gangsta out of New Orleans that was with Lil Wayne and Juvenile and them. He was locked up there. A lot of other famous, Leonard Peltier was there. I actually talked to him a lot. Really good guy. If you guys know anything about Leonard, look him up. His story is really interesting. But anyway, so yeah, I did 2 years, and then like I had to go. So I got back on my grind mode. I figured I'd cash in my retirement, but I didn't know when all this stuff would take place, so I had to grind. At the same time, though, I had to move out and into my own place because I had split up with my girlfriend. I got out of the house, so I was renting. So then I go on my own. I start driving for Lyft. Put a ton of miles on my Cadillac. Tore it up. Didn't really make any money. Lyft, you don't make money, but I was grinding. I was working like 14-hour days when my kid was at school because I didn't have a lot of help for somebody to watch him. I always had to do everything: take him to school, pick him up, leave him at daycare, like before and after school. So, but it's still my whole time. Even then, though, I started while I was at UCF. I started coaching, and while I was coaching, I coached for free at Osceola High School. We ended up going to a state championship. I dropped out of my high school, and I don't think, a lot of things were sour at the school that I went to when I was in high school, small town. So for me to have my picture in the gym at Osceola High School and just to be around those people and experience that, and at the end of every season, I cried really hard just because you put in like 6 months of work, and then you fail at the championship game or the season's over just in general. So for me, I love that. I did it for free, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like my other friend Joseph, who's was a coach around the area, he was talking about it the other day. High school coaches don't get paid that much, but I don't know. Like, I don't think they should get paid as much more because most kids that play high school sports don't play sports in college. It's just something they do. So you should only really, I feel like, pay coaches unless you go to a specific private school to play. Well, that's a different story. So I've coached for 4 or 5 years. I've coached high school, and it's just all voluntary. I never got paid, and I worked really hard with those kids, did a lot, taking kids back and forth to practice and just spending a lot of my money and time. And I do it all over again, 100%. Something I love to do, enjoyed it, friends for a lifetime. But I keep moving on to things because I'm trying to find what I want to do. So then I went from high school coaching